Barbeck is a proud sponsor of local H&R Preps.
Kelly, I just got a new cell phone. It's awesome. And I just shot a video of Nick at the game tonight. Oh my God, he is so cute. I'll send it to you right now.
We help you stay connected with a cute picture here and there. Buy local. Buy Barbeck.
Hello and welcome to this week's Preps Preview alongside Justin Conn. I'm Leroy Bridges. Not a crazy, eventful weekend of football, but there were a couple important games out there. MacArthur kind of gets some positive vibes going, beats city rival Eisenhower 26-0. I was out at that game, and pretty much the Generals just dominated from start to finish. They forced a 3-and-out in the Panthers' first two possessions, and they scored off of those two possessions. Also had a defensive score, and really they took over the game 20-0 at halftime. I'm not real sure. We saw some signs going into the year for this Eisenhower team, but you know what? We haven't seen any signs of life since the preseason, and MacArthur really took advantage of that and has kind of maybe some positive things to build on. They're 2-3 now going into this week against Champaign Central.
And, you know, MacArthur's a young team. They have a lot of good athletes on that team. I think that they can get this going in the right direction, and I think a nice finish to this season will really lead into what could be a return to the playoffs next year.
Yep.
Eisenhower, you know, this was kind of the year for them. The senior class, you know, was, you know, supposed to get this done, and it just hasn't happened. And I think, you know, the loss to Matuna starts the season. They just didn't play well in that game, and it just seems like it's steamrolled since. And it's hard to explain exactly why, but at the same time, you know, they could be looking at a winless season. Yeah,
and maybe a winless year next year. I don't want to get too far ahead, but the trend of MacArthur kind of on the up and up and Eisenhower falling by the wayside is going to continue next year. Just kind of looking at the rosters and projecting out a little bit. MacArthur has a lot of young talent. The other big game that was kind of impacting futures, Monticello and Clinton both fighting for playoff lives in the O-Call. Monticello goes out and maybe exposed a little bit. I know Coach Welter wasn't pleased with his pass defense, but they get the job done, beat Clinton to stay alive for the playoffs.
Right, and they're in the best position of the teams in the black that aren't obviously Tolono Unity and St. Teresa, which we'll get into their game this week later. But you know, between Clinton, Monticello, Shelbyville, and Sullivan Okaw Valley, you know, Shelbyville is really the only one that's out of it, but they could really spoil some team season. Monticello, Clinton, and Sullivan all play Shelbyville still this year, and you know, if Monticello is able to win against Sullivan Friday night, they're in really good position.
That's the big game for them.
But they still have to beat Shelbyville, and so it should be that should be a fun little race to follow here the rest of the season in the Okaw Black, kind of the teams that are fighting for that playoff spot.
Yeah, I guess if the Sages don't take care of business, only two teams from the Okaw Black will get in, and St. Teresa and Unity being those two teams. Looking at our top five, just a couple weeks since we last did this, so maybe some movement with Justin's that he's carved out in stone and hasn't changed since the beginning, but we'll see. I'm going to start off. I got Casey Westfield coming in at number 5. The first time they're making it into my poll. 5-0, ranked in the top 5 in the state in Class 2A. So I think that's a pretty good pick there.
Not the first time in your poll, I don't believe. No, well, but that's okay. It's
this
poll just has no real
too much movement. I get lost. Pena at 4. I saw the Panthers play on Friday. I was greatly impressed. They have a huge game this week against Greenville, and I know Greenville I think is number 2 in 3A or top 5. They're up there pretty high. Maroa in at 3, St. Teresa at 2. I've bumped the Bulldogs back up ahead of Maroa since they beat them a couple weeks back. And Tuscola at number 1. You can't really take the number 1 team in Class A out of that spot anymore. I won't mess with the Warriors after I moved them to number 2 before.
Okay, my top 5, my number 5 as well is Casey.
He's copying me. I got you. That's cool.
You know, after a couple weeks kind of seeing things go down here, kind of taking a step back, I'll agree to go ahead and finally get them in there. They need to be in there. I don't know what we were thinking there without them in there.
Yeah, it's true.
4, Mount Zion, who for some reason, even though they've played their best football of the season this last 2-3 weeks, is out of Leroy's poll.
Hey, Muhammad Seymour dropped his second game of the year. Maybe not a great loss to start the season. I don't know. I'm not feeling great about the Braves right now, even though they beat an undefeated Robinson team last weekend.
They're number 4. Number 3 is Maroa. They haven't had that next test yet since the St. Teresa loss, but I still think they got to be there. 2 is St. Teresa, and number 1, Tuscola right now is kind of riding the wave. Yeah,
and we'll see how good Tuscola continues to be this week. They have another huge home game. They host Central A&M. All but one of Tuscola's big games this year are at home. That one road game is at Maroa next week. But the Warriors welcome in A&M, a team that beat them last year, maybe an upset. Both teams were kind of even last year a little bit at the time they played.
Right.
A&M won after blocking a field goal, returning that for a touchdown. They were down by 1 when they attempted that kick.
Yeah, their field goal was blocked.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, then they returned it for a touchdown. It's funny because I think Tuscola would be considered a big favorite in this one, even though they did lose this game last year. I think when you look at it, the big difference is Tuscola's passing game right now with Judd Winkie. Last year, Philip Meyer, who had a great year, of course, and he had 90 yards rushing in this game, but he was 4-15 passing for 48 yards. So
Judd Winkie will be much better than that.
Yeah, and Central A&M is going to have to, like we've talked about a little bit, hold on to the ball. They're going to have to use their running game, especially Evan Hayes, to kind of dominate the ball. And when they're on defense, they're going to have to get pressure on Winkie or he'll carve you up.
Yeah, and I know last week Evan Hayes had 9 touches. He had a brilliant game, over 200 yards.
Right.
He's got to get the rock. He has to touch the rock more than 20 times this game. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a 3-4 score game. They have to be able to control the clock and have Hayes have a big night. Otherwise, it's not going to be good out there at Tuscola.
Yeah, I agree with that. Then the other big matchup in the OCAL this week is over on the black side with Unity traveling to St. Teresa. Yeah. And, that was a game last year that, we remember kind of Unity going on that big run and them sort of dominating this game. And I know you covered this game, 14-6 St. Teresa led in the second quarter, and then Sturgeon just kind of went off on them.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because all I remember from that game is St. Teresa getting dominated. And I don't know, it just sticks out. It was the first time I saw the Bulldogs play since starting here. And I had this great picture in mind. I had heard all about this great program. And they just came out and pretty much got pushed around, I thought, most of the game. Obviously, they had some success early, but that wasn't what kind of stuck with me. And they're going to definitely – they haven't forgotten about last year, and they're going to want to come out, pound the rock early, establish a line of scrimmage, and try and push Unity around because that's what they do, and they weren't able to do it last year for the most part.
Right. And, so they really have something to prove in this game. I mean, they really they don't like to look at themselves as not the best team.
Yeah.
In the wherever the OCAL overall or the OCAL black, either way, they want to be. They consider themselves that team. So this is big. This is a big game for them to prove that they're still that team.
And like we were saying, we've talked too. 2 losses that hurts your playoff seed,
it does.
And it hurts who you play early. And I know the Bulldogs haven't had the success they wanted early on in the playoffs. If you avoid that second loss, you can maybe prolong your playoff lives because you're playing lesser opponents. So I mean, this is a game that means a lot, not just for their psyche or anything like that, but looking long term.
Yeah, agreed.
So make sure you check out hrpreps.com. We'll have full coverage of all this week's action, and we'll see you out there.